Last thing I want to say is just unpack a little bit of the promise I made about inherent retrieval or retrospection built into Trinitarianism as such. So there are three ways in which I think the doctrine of the Trinity is always looking backwards necessarily. Number one, this is a constructive statement. The doctrine of the Trinity arises from the structure of praise. That is to say, God does things in salvation history. We thank God for doing those things because they save us. And in the act of praising God for what he's done, we rise to the level of praising God for who he is. So there's a move from thanksgiving to worship that begins with God's acts in history and ascends to God's being in himself. This is the inherent movement of worship. We're creatures of time. We receive from God in the course of history. But when we begin thanking God for what he's done, we don't stop. Praise itself is not satisfied with merely thanking God for what he's done, but always rises to the level of worshiping God for who he is in what he's done. I spell this out at greater length in the opening chapter of my book, The Triune God from Zondervan. It's that structure of praise that finds its logical perfection in the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. So Christian theology in general is faith-seeking understanding, and Trinitarian theology is praise-seeking underpinning. It's the successful carrying through of the logic of worship of the Christian God. So that's a retrospective thing, right? God does a thing, you thank him for it, and then as you sink deeper into what he's done, there's this reaching back further to say, oh, but behind that, before that, grounding that is the reality of God. So that's the retrospective or reaching back moment in all Trinitarian theology. I think that's crucial. I think you get it in Ephesians 1, blessed be God who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing. And then as Paul unspools that to talk about how God has blessed us, you end up before the foundation of the world. You end up in the wisdom of God. You end up in the depth structures of who God is that's made known in what he does as he behaves characteristically for us in our salvation. Number two, Trinitarian theology is inherently retrospective or retrieval-y because of our exegetical practices. When we start doing Trinitarian theology in the New Testament, it's always a matter of rereading Old Testament text in light of progressive revelation. So whether it's, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies a footstool for your feet, or whether it's, I guess the clearest example of this is to say, John chapter 1 starts out with a callback to Genesis 1, right? In the beginning, we already knew in the beginning God created heavens and the earth. In light of the revelation in Christ, John says, let us now go back and reread that with a deeper understanding, because in the beginning already was the Word, and the Word was already with God and was God, and the Word became flesh. So there's a revisiting, even if you want to start with Christ himself, with the arche, with the Alpha and the Omega, it's always going to be sending you back to a rereading of the Old Testament in light of progressive revelation. So that's an exegetical point. And then it's grounded in point 3, which is just the biblical theology of mystery. We talk about the Trinity being a mystery, and it is in various ways. But the fundamental way the doctrine of the Trinity is a mystery is in the biblical sense of the word mystery, which the word mystery occurs in Daniel and Ephesians and Romans, and where it always has a historical structure. It's not a puzzle. The word mystery doesn't occur in the New Testament in the sense of something which exceeds our understanding, which is another legitimate theological meaning of the word mystery. But biblically, there's a historical structure. A mystery is something which was always true, but was not made known in times past, but now has been made known. So there's this 3-beat salvation historical structure to a mystery. And the doctrine of the Trinity is a mystery in that sense. It was always true, but it was not clearly made known under conditions of the Old Covenant. because it's bundled with the fulfillment of the gospel, and therefore is made known in these last days in the coming of the Messiah in the power of the Spirit. So another way in which there's always going to be something retrospective or backwards moving built into the very structure of our Trinitarian faith and its formulations.